Hi, Roy here. Thought I'd drop in and talk a bit about plans for February next month, which is imminent. I've already made video about Filmtastic February, which is a great event to do with books related to movies, created by Annie at Obscure Book Adventures, and there's a couple of co-hosts, Duncan and myself. So we're like the mops and buckets that Mickey Mouse brings to life in Fantasia, I suppose. In our kind of stalwart assistant. So yes, Filmtastic February. That's all, the things I said I'd read, I'm still planning to read. But can I resist?
No, definitely not.
Holmes is Where the Heart Is, the February Sherlock Holmes reading event. So a month celebrating books about the world's greatest detective, created by Jim at Mystery and Mayhem. Well, I can't, but equally haven't got unlimited time. It did occur to me that with a little bit of planning, given that there are so many Holmes related movies and TV shows and what have you, making things do sort of double duty should be possible. So that would mean even more Filmtastic February stuff and participation in Holmes is Where the Heart Is. So for instance, in the first week, Filmtastic has a prompt about books that have been made into films, and I'm going to read The Four-Sided Triangle, a science fiction book by William F. Temple. But I can also read The Sign of the Four for the first prompt in the Holmes event, which is about reading one of the Sherlock Holmes novels. Pretty short as well, and it's been adapted for screen many times. According to IMDb, 16 times, and I suspect there might be a couple of others lurking around. And it's been a long time since I've read it, so that would be fun. There's a week in the Holmes event about reading short stories, canonical short stories about Sherlock Holmes, written by Arthur Conan Doyle. There's plenty of them. And they've all been adapted, if only for television, at least. So I think I'll get round to some of those. I've bought The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes in audio form on the AUdrey app. So I listened to them doing Study in Scarlet, yes, which I think was the first Holmes story at all, so looking forward to listening to some of the adventures, Scandal in Bohemia perhaps, I think that's the first one, and maybe looking at that in other formats as well, so that would work. There's also Pastiche Week, looking for us to be reading Sherlock Holmes pastiches. There are plenty of those, although movie adaptations tend to be related to the real stories, because there's so many of them, they're great, so why look further? But I sort of figured if I were to read a novelisation of a movie that's not a Conan Doyle story, I would be reading a pastiche, and I would be reading a novelisation, so again, straddling both events. I'm living in the middle of the overlapping bits of the Venn diagram. And I can do that, but I'll have to break one of my own rules. So the no Jack the Ripper rule could be broken to read the novelisation of Murder by Decree, movie from the early 80s with Christopher Plummer as Sherlock Holmes. And I know it's Jack the Ripper and I discard him. If I had my way, that person would be a footnote in history without a cool name, and we would move on. But I don't run everything, so he's become this kind of folk devil, I suppose. But Murder by Decree, pretty good movie, and novelisation of that could be good. There's another Holmes versus Ripper movie, as it happens, and maybe I'll get the novelisation of that as well. Could read that as well or instead. So yeah, so like I say, I'll hold my nose and read this, but I know it's a good film, and maybe it's a great book as well. What else? Aha, well, so hang on a sec. What have we got? We've got Filmtastic February. Here's my Lego mascot for that, little film director dude. We've got Holmes is Where the Heart Is, with a heart. But then, around about the middle of the month, enter The Garbage Man, because it is going to be the Wasted Weekend, the ancillary Garbaugust event. So that's a weekend of reading trashy books devised by Criminally. So the main event is in August, hence the name Garbaugust. But to keep us going, we have a little burst of this sort of business in February. So, well, novelisations have always been viewed as a legitimate part of trashy reading, where, you know, we're not looking for bad books because that would be mad, but we're basically reading the kind of less respectable, more commercial end of literature that's never going to trouble the sort of highbrow review pages of literary journals. So the novelisations I've mentioned, the Filmtastic book Bride of the Gorilla, nothing to do with Sherlock Holmes, unless it's even more surprising and startling than I think. So yeah, and some other stuff as well. So 3 overlaps. The efficiency is amazing. All of these events potentially got other bits and pieces as well that I'll come to when I do them, if I do them. Now then, both the film event and the Holmes event have non-fiction weeks. And I'm keen on reading this, England's Secret Weapon, about the wartime films with Sherlock Holmes, where, rather surprisingly, given that he first came to light in the Victorian age, he's fighting the Nazis. So
those the Basil Rathbone?
yeah.
Oh, they're fantastic.
So this book about them by Amanda J. Field, that's a must-have double bag item, I reckon.
Yeah.
So there'll be that. Also, Film Event has a week about film magazines. Sherlock Holmes, again with all his movies, must be mentioned in some of those old magazines like Picture Goer magazine and things like that, which I might not have in physical, but there's a really good search engine I've been using called Media Lantern that just focuses on cinema, going right back to sort of kinematograph Magic Lantern days. So I'm hoping to find some interesting bits and pieces by going down that route. And again, you know, I think there's been Sherlock Holmes movies almost as long as there's been movies. So those are my overlapping February things for what should be an action-packed month of reading, all sorts of stuff. Each of those events has got other things as well. Filmtastic February I've already talked about. Garbaugust, who knows, it will be, you know, I've got shelves groaning full of trashy fiction of various kinds, including some comic books as well, so some quick reads there. And I've got some other Sherlock Holmes things coming up too, so as I get to them, that's what'll happen. Just thought I'd tell you, and hope you too have an enjoyable February of reading or whatever else it is you do. Okay, bye.